Hello everyone, this is week 4 of painting flowers with line and wash. This week I'm demonstrating the painting of Clematis and using the pen. I'm going to use the pen only at the end of my painting, as I showed you a little bit of last week. Hopefully then to give a little bit of strength to my painting where I feel it might need it. I was inspired by the way that the Clematis actually grew at the edges of the plant outside up against my wall. I liked the trailing and the little trailing bits that go at the edges and the buds that sit at the edges. But because I like to paint from life, this is a bit loud. Because I like to paint from life, I'm just going to use that for inspiration, for the sort of shape that I want to go to. And so I've brought flowers and leaves inside, and I've composed my own picture on the page, but just being inspired by what I saw, what I've got in my head, and the flowers that I have beside me. But I'm going to do things a little bit differently this week. So I want to work through the whole page, whole picture, from start to finish, so that you see that everything that I do, which is obviously going to take longer. So I'm going to do it in several parts. I don't know how many parts it will take. So you'll have therefore more links this week to open. But because there are 5 Mondays in this month, you'll actually have longer, and maybe you could eke out your viewing time if you don't want to watch it all in one go. And you may wish to work on something similar, giving yourself more time and taking it over the 2 weeks. So let's get on and see how it goes. I've decided that I will put a background in as well, so it's all going to take a little while, and I hope you can see the flowers here and the colours. Beautiful, beautiful little flowers. These are the colours that I've decided to use. So you'll have those as usual. And this is my drawing. I did the drawing with a soft 2B pencil. And all I've done so far is just to mask off a few of the very light stamens that you see in the centre of each little flower. And I used a fine nib for doing that. Don't forget to give your masking fluid, your drawing gum, a good shake before you start. And if you have time, let the bubbles disperse before you start using it. It makes life easier. I don't know if you can see my drawing particularly well. So what I did was I took a photograph of my drawing in the hope that you could maybe see that a bit better. So I've got the trailing going on, and I've got the buds and some of the little stalks and leaves sitting up at the edge, which is the thing that inspired me more than anything else, I think. What I would like to do here and there is just to rub my white tack over, avoiding the masking fluid because I don't want to take that off. And this is just going to soften my pencil lines. It's a delicate flower and I don't really want to see pencil lines around the edges. But I will be going over part of it, maybe, with the pen. But it won't be the first, if I don't do that, it won't be the first time that I've decided that I'm going to do that and change my mind at the very end when I wanted to, in fact, leave it as a little watercolour and not put pen on it at all. So that's optional. We'll see how it goes. So the colours I'm using for the flowers, and they do vary a little bit, which is nice. I've got permanent rose and cobalt blue mixed. So let's see how that looks. It makes a lovely pinky purple, And yes, that's not bad at all. So we'll go with that. I'm not going to work wet on wet, but what I am doing to begin with is just putting down a little light wash. I've got quite a large brush out. I don't know if it's maybe going to be all right. We'll see. Leaving some white paper and working in the direction that I see the markings. I think I'll go for one with a little bit better point. Maybe try your brush out in your sketchbook first. Don't do what I do and just go straight in without second thought. So I've gone completely over the masking fluid, but I'm just actually now going to lift off a little bit of colour in the centre there, because I wonder if that's going to be a nice way, in this instance, to actually just drop in a little bit of the aureolin. And the green, because that way between the stamens there's going to be little bits of pink showing through. So maybe that's a nice way of doing it. Just while it's still wet, lifting off some of the light back. And letting that blend a little bit. That looks quite nice. Right. There's a darker area here where there's a little fold back. So slightly more purple for maybe something like that. Good. And my lovely little wet areas of blending and creating some shapes within the petals, which are going to look quite nice. This one's hiding partly behind a leaf, but I generally tend to paint all the flowers first, because they're the things that change more quickly if you've got them in front of you and you're working from life. And the leaves will stay put for quite a while, so that's the best way round, I always think. Lifting off a little bit of that light. So a nice little light wash, because it is quite a delicate pale flower. But trying to get darks and light going on. And going back in while that's still damp, just putting a little bit of contrast in there. So some of the petals have a sort of stripy effect. You can let some of that detail go, but at the same time maybe put a little bit of that in just to indicate what happens with this particular flower. And it's nice to do it while it's still damp, because it's going to blend and the edges will soften because it's still damp. If that were a dry petal and I added that colour, then it would create a harder edge. Right, a little bit of the aureolin in the centre there for those stamens. While it's still damp, a little bit of the green. Painting quite loosely. I'm getting further down into the picture now, and this is possibly where the focal point will be. You can have a focal point anywhere, just so long as there is one. So what I've done is overlapped some flowers here to make a stronger focal area. So I'm quickly just mixing up the same two colours again, but I'm going a little bit stronger to emphasise the focal area. So that's slightly stronger than the original mix. Working in the direction that I see the markings in the petal all the time, so that some of the work will already be done with creating any light markings that there may be sitting within that petal. Some of the petals have quite a frilly edge. It's not a smooth-edged Clematis, as some of them are. Pull some of that down. Looking out for any light areas that I can see in the subject. Painting to the music. While it's still damp, it's a nice time just to drop in a little bit more. So using the wet on wet technique a bit there. I used a slightly drier brush for that second little layer that I popped in there, so that I didn't get cabbagey marks, although I won't mind if I get some. Creating a lighter edge by just softening here with the water. The stamens are going to show up more than they are at the moment when I take off the masking. Right, so that little flower is sitting beside this one, creating a nice little focal area. Holding my brush loosely and higher up as normal, which helps to create a looser effect. actually dropping a little bit of quinacridone magenta into the centre of these, just to give a little bit more strength and difference to these, and then letting it dry. They do actually, some of them have quite a little deep marking in the centre. And I've got this mix here. I think I'll just pop some of these buds in. So pretty. So I'm touching it as little as possible. I'm trying to create the shapes that I need. complete. Right, so lighter mix I think now again, coming out towards the edges of my picture. So think about creating variety in that way when you're painting something as large as this, because if everything looks the same it becomes very monotonous and more difficult to look at. The eye doesn't know where to go from one thing to the next, whereas if it starts in a focal point it's going to work its way around the page. Remind me that it's there. And another one here. Quite green. Mix up a little bit more paint. It's good to do this so that you don't have all of your paint mixed at the beginning. Keep mixing as you go along, that way you get a certain amount of variety of tone, which is a good thing. I can turn the music up again. It's gone down again. I wonder if you play music when you're painting. I do think it's nice and it's helpful. It's soothing and relaxing and hopefully helpful. That's very wet, so I've just changed my towel. Right, I have another bud here. And then just the one, oh no, another bud here. I think the buds are lovely. They seem to have more variety in them than the actual flowers. I'm not judging until I've finished. A little pale one here, I think. So a little bit more water with my mix, just to keep this one at the base here pale. So while it's a busy drawing, it's not a terribly accurate drawing. I've not put in all the detail at all because I wanted to keep a certain amount of freedom for the painting. A little fold going on here. It's all folded up, that one. I can bring that shape back a little bit better later on, I think. Right, so I've gone through now with all of the flowers and buds. Just going to take a look at those now before I go on to the leaves. I've forgotten to put any stamens in this one. And I've got about 25 seconds left in this part of it, so that's worked quite well. And then I'm going to start another link for you. I'm just going to put a little bit more work into these central ones. There we go, that's really good. So in just a sec, I'm going to stop and then start a new link. So it's time for you to go and have a cup of coffee or something, or get a cup of coffee. And then you can, that's the first half an hour over with. So you can then watch the next link when it suits you. I don't want to overwhelm you or bore you too much, but I just thought you might appreciate watching the whole process. There, so I've waited for that to dry, and it does take actually quite a long time to dry. So if you're waiting for areas to dry without using the hairdryer, you'll be surprised at how long it actually does take. It's okay using the hairdryer, although it's not the best thing to do. It can move the paint and change it. But my focal area there's now been brought up a little bit more. So I'm going to stop and start the next one.